Good morning. If we do not know one another, my name is Sam Dowds. I'm a senior at Gettysburg Area High School, and I'm a member of the youth group. The verses that I was called to read and talk about come from Mark chapter 1, verses 12 to 13. According to the Bible that I got at my confirmation, it goes like this: The temptation of Jesus. And the Spirit immediately drove him out into the wilderness. He was in the wilderness for 40 days, tempted by Satan, and he was with the wild beasts, and the angels waited on him. I particularly like this section because of its use of a few key words. The first word, or first verb, being drove. It's very active and forceful. It does not say that Jesus was compelled into the wilderness. It says he was driven. The Holy Spirit, and God by extension, forced Jesus into a place of solitude and adversity so that he could grow and learn. The second word I like in this piece of text is wilderness, because of its ambiguity and sort of vagueness. We get the impression that Jesus is in a literal wilderness, surrounded by wild animals and subject to the wrath of the elements. But in a more metaphorical sense, as Jesus is tempted, it also seems that he is in a bit of a spiritual wilderness. Mostly what I think this gets to is the idea that wilderness can be a lot of different things, or places, and really just means a spot where our faith and wills are tried. The final word I appreciate about this passage is the word temptation. Temptation is very human. And knowing that Jesus was tempted and experienced temptation, I feel like God understands the human condition better. Jesus understood what it meant to feel alone, to feel the urge to do something wrong, to break character, or lose faith. He gets it, and therefore God gets it. To me, this seems like a pretty big aspect of grace. The fact that God can empathize with us even when we make poor decisions or disappoint him. I see this theme of grace also in the fact that the angels waited and cared for Jesus. They were patient with him just like God has to be patient with us. For me, it's not hard to find the legacy of this passage in my own life during the past year. Before COVID, I was playing 3 sports, I had a full AP load, I was involved in 6 clubs, I was keeping up with the church, etc., yada, yada, yada. In essence, it felt super busy. Then the pandemic rolled in and everything came to a screeching halt. Life went from going a mile a minute to a snail's pace in about a month. With this change in pace came a lot of adversity. We were separated. Everything was canceled. Both as a community and as individuals, we began to suffer many losses in ways that are seen and unseen. We were plunged into a new wilderness, one that was characterized by social distancing, mask wearing, and cancellations. Things I always took for granted, like eating lunch with my friends, meeting new people, knowing that there would be school next week, and so many other privileges were just void. God drove us all to find ways to cope and manage with the overarching sense of loss that accompanied this pandemic. I began to cope by running. I started running every day, sometimes twice a day, for hours on end occasionally. God pushed me to fall in love with running so that I could grow, in a similar fashion to the way that God pushed Jesus into the wilderness so that he might learn. I still love running, but in a time that is permeated by anxiety and uncertainty, such as the pandemic that we're living through, sometimes all the alone time just pattering down the road, listening to your feet slap the pavement, can get to be a bit much. I remember 2 times distinctly when I was running, once by myself and once with others, when I felt the call of temptation and doubt with the most intensity. First time I was running down my road. Virtual school had just ended, so there was very little structure left in my days. And I hadn't seen somebody my own age in a couple of weeks, and most people were saying that the sports seasons were going to be canceled. I was just running along, and I suddenly got so mad at myself. I was kind of like, what am I doing? I'm like literally running away from my problems. I felt like a coward. I felt powerless, and felt generally frustrated with my current wilderness. I stood there in the middle of the park road and was intentionally still. I looked around for a minute, and then I took a step forward, and then another step, and then another step, and then another step until I was running again. The second time was around the end of July. I heard a rumor that sports were about to be officially canceled. I was crestfallen. At the time, we had a small running group bubble that would meet in the mornings to put in miles. I remember I showed up that morning, feeling like I was cursed with knowledge. To make matters worse, none of the upperclassmen were there that morning, so it was just me and 2 other slightly younger guys. I felt like I was leading them towards a pointless initiative. We were trying to deny the inevitable truth of our current condition. But we ran anyways. What I later realized in both of these situations is that God drove me forward, By my own accord, I probably would have plopped down in the middle of the road and refused to take another step. Instead, though, God spurred me into action. He recognized my uncertainty and the temptation that infiltrated my mind, and he said, "Let me take care of that. I got this." Even better, we ended up having a full cross-country season. The truth is that God has been with us throughout this whole tragedy. Prior to taking the time to write this, I'm not really sure I realized how prominent God's role in overcoming temptation has been during this past year. He was there as I coped, as I ran, of course, but he was also there when I was panicked, when I felt alone, just like he was there for Jesus when he was out in the wilderness. Thank you for taking the time to listen, and please enjoy the rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing y'all soon in person when it's safe.